So this year I'm teaching 5 sections of biology and 1 section of integrated science. Generally, that's going to be, I have freshmen through actually a few seniors this year, mostly freshmen and sophomores, those in these classes. The school asked us to share with you this information, and so I'm just going to go through this quickly. And if you want this as a resource, I have attached it to the email here, so you're welcome to take a look at it at any point. But one of the things we focus on a lot is how do we know if students are learning. We have, or at least in my classroom, I have a system in place every day to check, are they understanding what's going on? So the first way that I do that is through warm-up questions at the beginning of each period. Usually it's something we've gone over or something they should have known, where it's sort of like a pre-assessment for me to understand what they know and don't know coming in. So I've included a kind of an example of something they see every single day. They also do an exit ticket most days, which is at the end of the lesson. Usually it's wrapping up the lesson, something we talked about, seeing did they get it, basically. And I look at those every single day to see where students tracking with me, are they making progress on doing the things that they should be able to do? And so that's my informal way of doing it. We discuss these and they talk with their peers about these every single day. And so it is something that we've built in on how do I know if they're learning. Now, obviously, that's more informal information. Now, obviously, during class, I'm going around talking to groups, talking to people, checking work, all of that. We do group discussions. We talk about things as a class. We talk about things in small groups. All of those are ways for me to assess our students learning what they're learning. Also, assignments, things like tests, all of those things provide me with information on if the student is learning or not. And then what will I do with that information? So this is like informal assessment information. So this is on a day-to-day basis. If students are getting it, we're going to move on. I don't need to beat a dead horse. We'll just move on. If they don't individually get it, so maybe I have a handful of students in a class period that don't understand something, I'll either call them into Bearcat time. If Bearcat time doesn't work, something like after school, before school might work better. Also got options for peer tutoring for students that are understanding that topic that I can hook kids up with. And so those are some of the options for individuals. Now, if the whole class didn't understand something, I'm going to reteach it. It's not fair for me to move on until all of us get it. And so that's the way that I view informal information about what students know and are able to do. Now, if you're looking for more formal information, like how did they do on this test or quiz, lab, project, kind of this more end of unit or end of topic things, then definitely I log all of that in Skyward as well as Canvas. So both of those are there. You are welcome to look at that information. But those are definitely not the only things that I'm doing on a daily basis to track how students are learning. Now, how I communicate that information to you is I try my best at a max to update grades every 2 weeks. The beginning of school is really, really hard because it takes us a while to ramp up. For example, in biology, we're working on writing up a lab. So we had to teach it, and then we actually have to do the lab. So it just takes time. And then in integrated, we're learning about some chemistry stuff. And so it's going to take a little bit before we get to the point where grades are going to go in. But I try to keep those up to date as soon as possible after something is graded, updating it. I'll also, if let's say your kid is doing really, really well, I might send home hey, your kid's doing really, really well, email or note. If they're struggling, then it might be something like, hey, I would love for them to do X, Y, and Z at home, or these are ways you can support them because they're struggling, or I've called them into Bearcat time, just wanted to let you know. Just quick little snippets of information to give you an idea of what's going on in class. If I feel like more information is warranted, you're always welcome to reach out to me. But I do have 180 students, so sometimes it's hard on a daily basis to reach out to people. I also, generally for students that are really struggling, I'll call home and we can kind of chat about maybe how can we help them improve, because the things that I may be doing during Bearcat time, or maybe that they're doing in class, maybe aren't clicking. And so we need to figure out what's going on to be able to help them. So those are the three main ways I communicate. And again, you're welcome to reach out in any email, phone calls, anything like that. Now, the best thing you can do to advocate for your kids is to check the grades on Skyward. Like I said, I try and update those regularly. Be patient just at the beginning of this year, because it does take me a little bit to get ramped up in the class to then actually put grades in. Email me if you have any questions, and then call me. Now, there are lots of resources, things at home that you can use to help students understand concepts. We do have a biology textbook. I did not have students check it out. The reason being is because the textbook is set up in such a way that the beginning of the textbook really the end of the textbook really relies on the first part of the textbook. And so it will constantly reference things. And if you haven't done the whole sequence, it makes it really challenging. And that book sequence is like impossible to get through in a year. And so we've chosen to move away from teaching using that book. If students wanted a resource, go for it. Our integrated science is a new class this year, and so we do not have a textbook. So I thought I'd provide some online resources that might be helpful. Canvas is always a great place to find information. And so if your student's asking for an assignment, or they don't know where something is, or they need resources, have them check there first. If, let's say, they don't understand something that I presented, maybe I've tried to explain it in multiple different ways and it's just not clicking for whatever reason, these are some of the resources I tend to send kids to. So Khan Academy is one. That's really helpful for both my classes. The Amoeba Sisters is a YouTube channel that's really helpful for biology. And we'll watch some of those in class, but they have a lot of different topics. And then Crash Course is another YouTube channel that does a really great job explaining different topics for a high school audience. And then K-12 is a collection of basically information related to tons of different topics. They've got practice, they've got little animations and videos and things that go along with it. And so I encourage you to check out that website. It's really helpful, and it really is geared more towards high school age students. And so it's not the reading level, and information isn't too detailed. So I would encourage you to look at that. And then I know for when I was in school and still continue to struggle with vocabulary. And so Quizlet is an amazing resource to help practice vocab. I make one of them for every single unit for the kids, and those are posted on Canvas. But they can also make their own. So if that's something they want to do, then I would love to have them do that. There are lots of different ways to practice vocabulary using Quizlet. And so I encourage you guys to check out all of those resources. They're incredibly helpful. If you don't feel like they're meeting your needs, then I have a whole host of other resources that I can send out and help support students at home as well. So hopefully, if you have questions, don't reach out to me and contact me. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions, again, let me know.